you do that? How did you do that?
Yeah, this was interesting on live stream. We went to do a pickup for this one.
So it's gotten a little bit easier. The normal, not in veteran end, but in normal, it's gotten a little bit easier. The cat bat, in particular, on normal, we've been running these streams for the last couple of weeks. So the cat bat in particular was could be challenging for sure.
I really liked that one. It was especially rewarding when your group worked together, and it was punishing as hell when you had someone just running around slapping boxes.
Yeah. And that was one of those funny things that we had when we developed the cube kind of thing. Was the feedback we would get from Jeremy and Rich as we're running through, and people were like, "Well, you could grief people with this." I'm like, "You can grief people in any dungeon. It's not."
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So.
Rich will still trap you
Rich will still trap me in the one where you need both blocks to open the puzzle.
Yep.
Or, invariably, every time we run through it with Press and I run into that little like cubby hole to get the other one out, he knocks the block off the thing.
Do you think there's payback for screaming "choo choo" in his ear?
It might be. It might be.
He's making it personal every time.
Every time. It's like, choo choo this. How you like this pain train?
Indeed.
Okay. So this is Moongrave Fane. This is a temple, ancient temple of dedicated to a sect of the Khajiit religion that's just been long since abandoned. It's in disrepair and stuff. But this guy here, Chevalier Renault, followed his good friend Grundwolf to this place. So Grundwolf is a dragon guard, a vampire dragon guard, an ancient vampire dragon guard who's been around for a long time. And in his fights with the dragon, he got the bright idea to shoot down a dragon, drink its blood, and become super duper powerful.
Okay, good plan.
Yeah, Chevalier is like, that's dumb. Don't do that. So we're here to help Chevalier stop Grundwolf. Now, Grundwolf has the aid of some vampires, a group of vampires called the Hollow Fang, which they are like, yeah, we wanna eat dragon's blood too, and so they're here to help out as well. But the front door is blocked, which is no match for us because conveniently a hole in this wall over here.
Oh, that was handy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like they planned it that way.
Who would have thought?
Somebody did. But what I do like to highlight is we wanted to sell the how big kind of this place is. It's massive, but it's also like really pretty.
Wow, this is very similar to the. I don't want to give spoilers. Stuff in the house.
Stuff in the
the elsewhere one. Yep.
Yep. The Lunar Champion house.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep. Yep. And this is where we get to see the block for the first time. What we try to do is again make sure that you can telegraph and tell you kind of how these mechanics work. So how we did it this time was we put it on these NPCs, and you saw them kind of knocking and backing.
Okay.
And then so you can go ahead and get this. How it works.
It goes a lot further if you heavy attack it.
If it goes farther, if you heavy attack it, yes. So if you light attack, it goes a little bit, and then if you heavy attack it, it goes a little bit further. If it gets stuck, it'll flash like orange. So like if you hit it right there, you see it has that orange sign on it.
Yep.
It also goes in 8 directions.
Try to squash me.
Yeah. Oh, I got stunned. I had a heavy attack there at the end.
I saw this the sword and board and the dual wield was very, very efficient to heavy attack this with. Like, it was really quick.
Probably because of how short the heavy attack
Yeah.
time.
It was much better. And then the long duration heavy attacks were more difficult to do. So that kind of adds a little bit to who's going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And, when we first were developing kind of that block mechanic, we had, various iterations where we kind of like, what are we going to do? Are we going to allow any attack to do it so you can hit regular abilities off of it? Or and we made the decision to just so that we could control kind of the variables on who could hit what. We just made it light heavy attack. Kind of like reduce the risk involved, I guess, with that. Oh.
Yeah, it goes much, much further with the heavy. It's really nice. Oh, you can overshoot it though as well. I've seen that.
Yep.
Like that. Yep. I got it. No, I don't.
So that's actually... Is it stuck?
It looks like I can get around it, but I can't.
Right here. This is another thing, is we realize that there's going to be places where this thing kind of gets stuck.
Yep.
So if you look at this little thing right here, you can hit this. It's a synergy. It takes a long time. You can't use it in combat. And then it disappears the block, and the block reappears. Right?
Nice.
That is specifically to prevent
that happening.
Getting stuck, and then you're screwed. Stuck.
Yeah. This is going to be a bit out there, but I'm assuming that because you've considered that this could get stuck, you've obviously considered that this could sometimes be abused. You've obviously put in some fairly large collision boxes to make sure that people can't jump over walls, right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, you can't actually... It also has what we call roof collision, so you can't actually jump on top.
See, there's the information we're looking for. Nice, very nice.
Yeah. Trust me, we are very sensitive to people jumping on top of stuff like, I don't know, mementos that have collision. And
NPCs.
Just throwing out there just in case.
Exactly. So.
No, that is something that has come up a lot, like from my own viewers and stuff. Like, oh, well, maybe we can do this. Like, first of all, don't do that. Secondly, I'm gonna check.
Oh yeah, it has a collision on top that would prevent you.
Yeah, I gathered you'd covered that, but I wasn't sure in which angle you had approached it in.
I think it's generally like one of those first things that we think about is hey, how are we going to exploit this?
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that other people won't
find
other ways.
Yeah, of course. But you have that system in play to consider that. Obviously, not only do you want the content to be good, but it has to be not broken. Yeah.
Right. So this is Risen Ruins, first boss in here. Kind of blocks this thing. This also has the Hemohelics and the Sanguine Sacrifices. Those are you can sacrifice it in two ways. You can either sacrifice your own blood to power it, or you can kill a monster on it.
Okay.
The health is not a percentage; it's really a flat value. So it is far more beneficial for the tank to sacrifice themselves than players to sacrifice themselves.
So the tank has to be quite maneuverable, running around the room a bit.
Yeah, and just kind of have like, I know he's going to do. No, I used it too early.
It's quite cool actually, because you've got very familiar mechanics with the main boss itself in terms of the whole Arthurian Archive type boss. He looks the same, he's got similar abilities and such, but then the room is completely different because you've got all these extra mechanics added in. It's like you've upgraded that particular fight. So you've seen it before, but hey, this is completely new. Exactly. It's very cool.
And this one is actually far more mobile.
Yeah, he moves around a lot more, that's right. Now, I like the fact that you've introduced familiarity and new at the same time.
Yeah, generally when we don't try to just copy pasta.
No, of course.
So we try to introduce at least something new that's...
I'm letting you do the damage because I'm seeing stuff happen. Otherwise, I'll just nuke it.
You can just nuke it now, because...
Fine.
Yeah. Release the Xynode. There you go. Look at that.
That was definitely a nuke.
That fight it can get ad heavy, so
Yeah.
especially if, high damage. But for the groups that this is designed for, the normal players, it shouldn't be too bad because it's really only high damage groups because they're all health threshold.
Okay, so if you pace it, you can manage it, and if you nuke it, that's when you get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Kind of like
and
Fang
generally
Lair.
we try to do that in normals. We try to say, oh, you know what, we're going to just do health threshold stuff. So we had that on the Pujo Kethba, which is the cat gargoyle, that you had talked about. Originally we had, in normal we had health thresholds and time, and what we realized is with time, for groups that aren't that great,
It locks them
you
out.
can get into issues. Yeah, you can get into issues where it's like you're just constantly fighting ads.
Yeah.
It's constantly pounding, and you have to move those blocks all the time. So with health thresholds, if you have high damage, you'll hit those sooner. You'll do the same thing, but at the same time, you're actually working through the boss's health. So this dude is a Pomberat vampire. A
He is
super
very
big cat.
cool.
Yeah, and he uses these symbols around the room to do the same thing. He summons followers who come and sacrifice themselves, and then he tries to power himself up on those. And he has this
Very
shield.
familiar mechanic there, which is pretty cool.
It's the first time you've really seen it in 4 players, I think.
That's very true, yeah. Lots of ads and shinies. Yeah, when it comes to the health thresholds, I can't get my words out, and DPS amount and stuff like that, it's got to be quite a grey area if you were to introduce too many DPS races, because then that would potentially lock out people of lots of different abilities.
Exactly.
So it's very cool that you do that.
Generally try to, we generally try to make sure, especially in normals, that we don't have too crazy DPS races. Because we know that they might not have that, and the leveling experience is a little different.
Yeah. Well, also on that point, it does open up 2 different styles of play as well. I mean, if you're a complete burn group and you can nuke through anything, you can manage the ads, sure, go for it. But if you can't, you can basically, if you need to, either go at your own pace or slow down to just manage the mechanics over time.
And that is something that we've done before too, where we've said, hey, you know what, we want DPS to kind of be slowed down in situations, so let's put in these health thresholds. I know that Moonhunter Keep is a good example at the end of that, where you have that situation where, if you burn it and you don't pace yourself, oh, look at that, this guy's gonna get off a thing.
Yeah, nice.
What you do?
We let him do the mechanic.
Yeah, you did. What's wrong with you guys?
Showing people.
Yeah, that's it.
They result in massive damage.
Well, when we did the Rathstone one, you were talking about the troll, and I annihilated it, and then forgot to show the mechanics, and now I'm showing stuff.
Oh no! Alright.
Necro without a res ulti. Fired.
I know, right?
Fired.
Well, it's funny because actually when we've done some of these press interviews, I actually haven't put the res ulti.
I'm nuking him.
That's fine. Look at that. Easy. Only 1 death. Unbelievable.
Got an achievement called Bloody Kill.
Yep. All of these are up.
It's a really cool mechanic. What's the I didn't even check actually. Maybe I could roll back on a video. I don't know if there was a health bar for those ball things. Is it like a light attack, a full heavy attack, or is it a health amount?
Heavy attack. You have the heavy
It is
attack.
a heavy attack.
Yep.
That's what I did, but I don't know whether that was damage based or not.
Nope,
Pretty
it
cool.
is not damage based. It is a heavy attack, and that's another thing too. Is that's also a kind of way to prevent needing a DPS check to deal with those things, and they can't actually get hit by anything other than a heavy attack.
So they can't just be left to dots.
Nope.
Very cool. Following mechanics.
It's also a concerted. You have to make a concerted effort to deal with those.
Yeah. I like this new root effect.
Yeah, that kind of like weird looking circular spike thing that comes out.
Yeah. I
I
keep
got
looting
dungeon
stuff.
healer. Way to go, Jeremy.
I'm not doing my job.
I'm saying I'm doing your job. I'm
Fair
just
enough.
That's the old achievements.
Yeah, those are
No
quite
push.
fast to get, aren't they?
Yeah. You know, when we updated the one Tamriel and we did have the 10 times stat increase and stuff like that,
Yeah.
we didn't go back and adjust those levels because it's not exactly easy on achievements.
Sure.
So, because if you already had it and you didn't reach that threshold, what happened? You just left them as easy.
That's fair.
So this is my third dungeon, I think, of this tank, and it took me to get that. So, dungeon healer, official.
That means you can go heal trials now for everybody.
Exactly what that means.
And on the ESO logs, it'll say how much you healed as well. I mean, it's not for everybody else, it's just for you, but
Right.
you did heal.
I did. I have the achievement to prove it. Now we get to go outside and see Chevalier kind of be a badass here. Take out a couple of hollow fangs.
As you do.
As you do. Yeah. Have that one. Spinning attack this one. There you go. And Nasazda down there is the actual leader of the Hollow Fang vampires.
Cat bat.
And, yeah, and there's Cat Bat, and there's probably a burst down there, but we're not that good, so we got to run around.
Good. I like that these are now ads as well.
Yep.
Because they're not really most of the time.
Right. And part of what we
Apart from Blood
we
Root.
talk about when you talk about pacing and stuff like that too, we also like to do situations where, you know, if we're gonna have these smaller monsters in the game, smaller versions of that, then we introduce it kind of with a mini boss. So you see a big version of that that's doing some crazy stuff, and then from then on, kind of some smaller ones.
Yeah.
Placed inside and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, and it kind of like sells that you fought the big one, now you have to fight the little one.
Yeah. So I'm not going to hit this boss very hard. So we can do
the best AoE pull in the game. It's
yeah, it's mental.
better one. Pretty much all the old dungeons, I think, had bigger AoE pulls.
Yeah, Blackheart Haven, first pull.
Fungal Grotto in the caves.
Oh, that's actually pretty big as
cave.
well.
Yeah, that cave pull is pretty good. Alright, so we're up to Kujo Kethba. We're going to pound the ground, do the little geyser things that come out. You have to, you know, move these blocks on top of them.
Mm-hmm.
Does not in normal reflect damage anymore. So
Look at him.
yeah, he's so cool, right?
Yeah.
Pound the ground.
Oh. I overshot it. He's got very similar gargoyle mechanics as well for his basic attacks, which are quite cool because it familiarizes you with stuff you've seen. But this block movement stuff is very, very cool under pressure, especially when you got loads of ads in the room.
It really kicks in veteran mode when you don't have kind of I think we limited now in normal where there's only ever 2 geysers that appear, whereas in veteran he gets up to I think 4 or something like that. He gets a lot of
yeah, I've seen 4.
yeah, he gets a lot of geysers up.
We've also seen a lot of ads as well.
Yes.
A hell of a lot of ads.
Reduced it kind of in normal, but in veteran for sure.
Hey, it went. So does it still do that? Like, if you don't block them after a long enough amount of time, they come... You go back to normal anyway, but obviously you take more damage during that phase.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Now these are on a health timer, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine, not just because we saw that, but this is the same rule of 3, so there's 3 phases of it?
I think so, but then in veteran you have a situation where it's health or time.
Oh, nice.
So so you can't just slow play it in veteran. You actually have to be able to DPS it down. Otherwise, you're just going to be doing pounding faces.
Nice. His health isn't that much though, is it? So as long as people are focusing, then it's not like you need 7 million DPS or else.
Right. That would be insane.
That would be a little bit.
Requires 7 million DPS.
Yeah, you need 24 people. In fact, no, a lot more than that.
yeah, it would be a lot. Unless we give you a buff or something.
You can buff me if you want. That's fine. You nerf me on my streams because you keep getting me killed.
You're right. That's exactly what we do. So this one teaches you how the hemoheliates act with the homunculuses here.
I'm glad you said that, not me. Okay.
So it breaks the shield, basically.
Yeah.
Come on.
There
They're
you go.
immune until they
Get burst.
yes. So
Synergy, heavy thingy, blow them up.
there we go.
Very cool.
That might be important in the boss fight.
It might be. It looks like one of those breadcrumb moments.
Yep. Those telegraphing mechanics that we have for to let you know this is going to be important.
Yep. You've done that before in another dungeon once.
We try to do it in as many dungeons as possible.
I'm messing with you.
Yeah.
To be fair, the most recent ones, when I say most recent, I mean pretty much DLC onwards, opposed from base game, although some of the base game it does, you've kind of underlined that in most of them, if not all of them, in some way or another. It's down to whether people are paying attention to it or not. I mean, now it's a lot more obvious that this is a brand new mechanic and you have to pay attention to it, whereas before it's kind of, if you're looking, you'll see it.
Right. And I mean, you can thank Jeremy here for a lot of that stuff, because the first thing he does when he goes in, and cause we have these director reviews on Wednesdays where him and Rich will come in and start playing, and the first thing he asks is, well, how are players going to know this?
Okay. So looking at it from the player's perspective.
Exactly.
Really cool.
And from a player's perspective that isn't like super top end as well. You know what I mean? Like we're coming into it and saying like, some people are okay with learning by death, but generally we try to not teach you that way.
Yeah.
But death is a good teacher. That's what I always say.
Yes, it is.
Once. Death is a good teacher once. That's correct.
Someone made a UI for that.
Chevalier confronting Grundwolf, and then the Sazda appears behind him and stabs him in the back.
Blech, dead.
And now we got to fight both of them. So this has a lot like, if you remember in Volenfell, the normalization where the health normalizes between the guys. This is the exact same thing that happens here.
Okay, so let's share it.
But it's all controlled by Nasazda. So if you actually defeat Nasazda first, then of course the health won't normalize.
Okay. Do you want me to pace it? I'll pace it.
That's fine.
So you can see what happens. He's
So now she needs. Yeah, that's what the Hemohelot here will do. Will interrupt her.
It's also for the ghosts too, by the looks of it.
Yep, it is. She also will do a like a channeled ability that needs to be interrupted with it. So that's what that gargoyle was.
Gotcha.
I think it's called something thirst that AoE does damage.
He just did a dragon.
He
One
did.
shout.
He did a Fusro
He
Da
did a
there.
Fusro Da.
Love that.
And that's another thing too is we had a lot of, we have some shouts to borrow off of. By the way, I just want to highlight this super cool scene right here. Grunwolf floats down there. So this is really cool. You see the kind of the hole in the roof that this thing was shot down in and fell collapsed under rubble. That's Sarotnax. It's the name of that dragon.
Mm-hmm.
We don't generally engage our concept artists to draw stuff that we're going to do in the dungeon, but every once in a while we do. And for this final room and kind of the presentation, we went to concept and said, hey, just to give our world builders an idea of what we want to do here and stuff like that, we draw this. And this is a lot of times when our concept artists will draw stuff, it'll look awesome. It's fantastic. And it doesn't quite match up when it gets in game, which is okay.
Yeah, of course.
You can make constellations for bringing it in a game. But this is like damn near one-to-one translation. Or the world builder working this, Dan, did a fantastic job of like just making a one-to-one translation of what that concept piece looked like in the final room. I'm hoping that we can publish that so people can see kind of like how that all came out.
Oh, that would be really, really cool. You did show some of the process for Dragon Bones, I believe, for the cover art for that.
Yeah.
I remember that was posted.
Yeah.
So if they don't let you do it, just say, look,
yeah,
we did this once.
I don't know that it was Lucas that did this one. Lucas does most of our art stuff. But this was one. I think it was Steven, but I'd have to check. But yeah, that it's the way that looks is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's very cool. Your dungeon content, if you like, visually is looking a lot more dramatic in that respect. There's a lot to see.
Yes, I mean we that's one thing that we kind of harp on a lot and push for is to make these things super distinct and unique and stuff like that. And as we do more of the game, it gives us more opportunity to explore different things and stuff too. So pretty awesome. So now Grunwolf is drinking the blood of a dragon. The dragon hates that, as you would imagine.
Yeah, it's not nice.
I mean, he's a dragon.
He's a friendly dragon.
Heard some people mention, Celine's web type stuff with this, where they're like, "Oh, but the dragon is just sitting there and he's drinking its blood. That's not very nice." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, guy. He's a dragon." That is one of those things that I think caught us kind of by surprise when we first did Celine's web. Was the how people got and because we wanted to sell that Grindon isn't necessarily a nice guy for sure.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Like we wanted to operate in gray area. Like, hey, Celine kind of got picked over by Corindon. But it translated so well that people looked at Celine as like a sympathetic character and stuff, which is something that I don't think we really fully expected for people to say, no, I really like Celine. So when we've had that public sentiment there for a couple of years, and that way we were able to go to Lair of Marsalok and bring Celine back and kind of tell a different part of the story. It's really awesome.
It's funny how you find people having completely different mixed opinions of what a character is or isn't supposed to be.
Right.
Like feeling sorry for characters as well. It's funny.
All right. So this
Especially
is the
her.
other use of the block. You know, you come in here and you knock it out of the way so Serotnax's fires can hurt him.
Okay.
Also, this chain. If you get closer to the chain, the damage or the less damage you would take from it.
I don't want to nuke him because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, he's got layers to what he does.
He did it again! Oh man, that's brilliant. I said this when we were, well, I mean, you knew anyway, but I said this when I came to Zos this year. Some of the coolest things in some of the dungeons and the content itself is the sound, the audio.
Yes.
One of which was Grothdar with his massive slam. And then once Elsewhere came out, you've got dragons and people actually doing shouts. And now people are listening out for them. It's very, very cool.
And it's pretty awesome. Like the success of Skyrim and everything that was is kind of it gave us a basis to kind of start some of these shouts. So like Boost Rodan and stuff like that, stuff that makes just sense for him to be doing. And if there is a translation in the lore that we have, that's great. But it also we had the opportunity to make our own shouts.
Oh, of course, because you can write the story now.
and we just have to kind of follow the tenets and everything that Bethesda has come up with for how that's done. But yeah, that's it. We beat Grunwolf. Now you get to see this cool scene with Serotnax talking. Basically, his dying wish was to kill Grunwolf because he really hated him. So Chevalier talks to him, and then, spoiler alert, Serotnax does not make it.
I like how the dragons speak too. They're really, really cool voices.
Oh yeah, and the dragon, all the voices that we've gotten for the dragon are fantastic. And then for Lair of Marsalak, that was a pretty cool concept that the idea was that you fought dragons in the Overland and you fought dragons in Sunspire, and it always took more than a group.
Yeah.
So we didn't want Marsalak, when you go in and you fight Marsalak, to be this chump, right? You know, that you can beat him with 4 people. So that was what kind of like got us the idea of you coming in here with a group, you have less opportunity to fight him one-on-one, so you have to fight him in 3 separate things. You slowly chip away at his health and kind of whittle him down and stuff like that. Not to mention Celine also being a big part of helping you out in that dungeon. So it's to sell kind of like the established paradigms that we have for dragons of being, they're big, they're mean, they're vicious. You need more than a group to do it.
Yeah, I saw that. It was a really good concept because it kind of, well, to basically say what you've already said, it does give you that constantly building up kind of your progression through the dungeon, going from one stage to the next, but also at the same time constantly chasing something that you can't kill flat out, and over time it just gets weaker and weaker until this final fight. That kind of idea is really, really good. I don't think you've done that in any other.
This is the first
before.
time we've actually had you fight, and actually it was a big question mark when we first came up with the idea of saying, we're going to fight this guy in 3 places, and there was, people were like, are we going to be able to do that, or is that going to come off right? You're just fighting the same boss over and over. But that also led to the idea of like dragons do a bunch of different things, so we wanted each of those fights to highlight a different thing dragons do. So in the first one he's flying in the air, and the second one he's perched, and the last one he's on the ground. And actually he has more movement than even dragons in the Overland and Elsewhere have. Like when he's on the ground, he's charging back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I like that because you have to. Well, you consider this anyway, but in general, MMO players did originally play single-player RPGs and probably still do. And that is very reminiscent of kind of the whole tower chase to the boss. Like, you see him at the beginning, you give him some abuse, he pulls some guards in and runs away. You get further up the tower, you smack his next guards, give him a little bit of a stab again, and he runs away. And then eventually you get to the top of the tower, and it's like you and him. It feels like that. It's very, very kind of immersive. You're constantly telling a story, and you're constantly chasing that final fight.
And I think that playing into the story elements, we had that with Celine. So Celine is very integral in the first two fights. And at the end, especially in Veteran, especially in hard mode, Marsalok realizes that Celine is actually a very big threat. So in the hard mode, when you activate the hard mode, Marsalok basically mind controls Celine. So you don't have her in that fight.
Gotcha.
So that's also kind of like a story-driven like switch. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, you know, Celine has helped me through this entire thing. Now I don't have her, and I have to beat this dragon by ourselves.
That is also a little different as far as the dragons that we've seen are concerned so far, because that power hasn't been used.
What, the corruption part?
Controlling Celine? Has it been used actively apart from having minions?
No.
Didn't think it
really.
did.
No.
Is that an opening for later?
Also, I mean, part of it lends into the nature of Marsalok. When we developed Marsalok, he was very much a dragon that oozes and seeps corruption out of his skin and everywhere he goes and everything he does. So he corrupts literally everything. So showing, especially in the hard mode, that Celine was not immune to that is pretty cool.
She has a weakness.
Yeah. Only if you want to make the fight harder to show weakness.
Yeah, but there's shinies to be gotten from it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, that sounds like your weakness.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's exactly what it is. You just made me have to make a more difficult guide now.
There you go. So that's it. That's all we got. Do you have anything else for us?
As far as this is concerned, I mean, is this in a safe state, or are there still changes to come, like content and difficulty wise?
The only changes we would make would be bug fixes and stuff like that. We're not making any. Actually, my bad. In this fight in Veteran, I believe we're going to spice it up with a couple of the big Dramathra that are going to come in the Veteran fight. So you're going to see a couple when you fight Grunwolf empowered, so to speak. You're going to have more of the big vampire dudes come out.
Okay, so a couple of minions and stuff.
Yep.
Are they the same as they are in the dungeon?
Did you play Moongrave hard mode?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know how there's at 5 times those big dudes come out?
Okay.
Yeah, they're just like that, except you have a little. I think you only have 3 in Veteran.
Right. Okay.
It just adds. They just are included in Veteran and not just hard.
I assume they're going to be similar to the ones that are already in the dungeon in terms of difficulty.
They're the exact ones, yeah.
Exactly the same. Okay, so if everyone's familiar with them, they should already be able to understand what they do and don't do.
Exactly.
Kind of like, again, the breadcrumbs thing. So kind of, you've seen them in the corridors, you know what they do. Same as Depths of Malatar, where you see the Watchers all the time, and then you go up against the Wisp Mother type boss, and there's Watchers in the fight. So kind of similar to that. Are they set to be on health timers? Can't you say?
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
Cool. But that's player testable.
Fair.
So.
That's fair enough. If you can't tell me, you can't tell me. That's fine. I just have to ask. But that's pretty cool. When is this out? Very soon, actually, isn't it? Only a few days.
It comes out
4 days.
next week. Yeah, it comes out on the 12th for PC, and then the 27th for Xbox One and PS4. So
as far as go.
No, I said no time at all. Really.
Okay, no, it's really quick. As far as the Undaunted keys are concerned, there is a crossover at the moment with a certain Crown Store purchase, and that is the weapons pack. Obviously, that's now available for a set amount of time. That being available means obviously the monster and shoulder set are available at the same time. We've currently got Chudan. Yeah. When this lands on console, is this going to land as that disappears, or will there still be 1 day for it? Because I think they're both on the same day, if not one apart. The reason I asked for that is because on PC, people will be able to get the shoulders via Undaunted keys, and if it falls off at the same day as release for console, we won't be able to.
I don't know when it falls off. If it falls off on a Tuesday, it's probably going to fall off on console release.
Gotcha.
Just because that I think the 27th is a Tuesday. So
because that might make people unnecessarily spend their keys.
I could bring that. That's a good point. I could bring that up to the Crown Store team.
It's literally 1 day in it, I think, and that's it. But yeah, really looking forward to that part of the game. The multi-crafting is absolutely insane.
Yes.
Because this is the thing. You could probably empty your crafting bag now by accident or on purpose. Because instead of sitting there spamming make 4 potions over and over and over and over, you just go, I'm going to clean out my inventory and just sell the stacks.
It's going to be so great to just go through all of my stuff and just highlight everything. I'm like, decon it all, please.
Oh, yes.
I don't need this anymore. Yeah, so I can't wait for multi-crafting to go in.
It's also going to make crafting skill levels up a bit faster as well, because obviously, I mean, you could argue that it's power leveling, but technically, you should be able to just squash stuff if you've got it. So if you've got the materials to do it, why can't you do it? And now that you can do it so fast, it saves a lot of time on multiple characters as well.
Absolutely.
Do you have a set price? I mean, you don't have to answer this. Obviously, I know that next week may still change stuff on the PTS notes because we're still in testing technically. But do you have a set price for the skill lines themselves on the Crown Store?
I believe they have a price, but we don't.
Okay, so not sure yet.
You'll have to wait for that to hit.
We don't have insight into that team.
No, that's fair enough. I know that sometimes they're a little bit not too sure until very last minute, or maybe just keeping it until it's released, but had to query it. Because there are a lot of conversations, obviously, regarding that. Most of them are a mixture between people misunderstanding the terms of what's going to happen and frustration because they've already done it. But I think it's a good addition because if you've already done Mage's Guild 10, which most people, if they've been playing for long enough, have, then you obviously know that it takes a very long period of time to do on every single character. Now, the argument about people shouting pay to win, we all know that it's misinformed, is that people pay for something to get something done over a short period of time and other people don't. The thing is, how you've approached it and allowed it only to be accessible to people that have gone through the motions before is very, very good. If it was just buy this skill line, that would suck. That would be really bad. But the way you've approached it, and you've said, look, you've spent enough time in the game, you've gone through this, you've played the content, do you want another character? If so, here's an option.
I mean, it's a lot like the Sky Shards, too. It's like,
the Sky Shards were awesome.
Sky Shards on characters unless you've already done those Sky Shards on a character. So that's absolutely the kind of the mentality we had with even the skill lines of like, you're not just going to log in a level 1 and then, I'm just going to buy all the skill lines and kind of pay to win your way up. You're gonna
exactly.
Gonna have to have done it. So.
So you will have had to play the content first, and I think that helps a lot for people in general. I mean, especially if you've got, say for example, you work a lot, you could probably buy a few crowns here and there, but you don't have enough time to play and keep up with everyone else's alts and all the rest of it. Well, that kind of introduces that option if you don't have the time to, or if you don't choose to, and you don't have to fall behind. You can still do it over time, but the fact that that is now a thing. I mean, we've wanted it mostly in the community for a very, very long time. So to now have that and the way that you've made it fair is actually a cool addition to it. I'll be interested to see how much that costs.
Happy with kind of how that's come about too.
The dungeon itself is solid so far. I haven't seen any huge bugs with it, but I'm gonna say that the most interesting one is the cat bat.
There were some fairly large bugs with it. I mean, nothing like Depths of Malatar we had where you just got teleported back to the main room, but we've kind of squashed those. I've been pretty happy with how the dungeons have held up to public scrutiny, so I'm sure when they go live, everybody will love them.
Now, visually they're cool, mechanically they're cool, and they're obviously very different from stuff that we've seen before, apart from a couple of enemies, which again have been introduced with their own mechanics to some extent as well. So you got familiarization and new stuff at the same time, especially that block movement system, very Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider, Zelda, a lot of people said that. So
it's the old school game mechanics in a new game, in a newer game even. So I think people are going to like that a lot. Across the board, I don't think I have too many other questions. I do want to know where my mammoth mount is, but I know you're going to tell me it's in Falkrave, and I have to kill it. And every time I kill it, I put a saddle on, it doesn't move. So we're going to skip that one.
It's true.
Overall, I'm just interested to see the patch land. I won't go into combat because I know you guys have heard enough about that already, and probably not necessarily have the answers I want. But we'll see what happens there as well. The only fear I have is that we are going too high with our ability to output damage. And I think that some older content is getting squishier. But then when you see the new content such as this, that does kind of then level out, because some of this is actually proper hard, regardless of how good you think you are. So I do think the upcoming or recent content, so this one and previous, in the last few months or the last year or so, is where it should be difficulty-wise. Especially with the, what's the word for it? Power creep, if you like.
Okay.
But since we're on the dungeon category, I have one statement. I won't call it a request, I'll call it a statement.
Okay.
I would like to see some of the previous stuff somewhat altered. Specifically, not the version 1 and version 2 stuff, the other ones. What I like to call the neutral dungeons. So like Blackheart Haven, Blessed Crucible, that kind of stuff. Because a couple of them are very good, but didn't, in my opinion, come through as difficult as I thought they might once they hit 1 Tamriel. But that's a long time ago.
And generally, our philosophy is that's kind of okay.
It
in
is.
a lot of respects.
But I'm going to go by what the kind of feedback I get in the live streams about specific dungeons. Those ones do come up quite a lot.
I gotcha.
But yeah, overall, really, really happy with it. This is really, really cool.
Awesome.
Crafting stuff is nuts. New combat updates is nuts, but obviously that isn't finished yet. Undaunted Keys I cannot praise. There's also enough for that. The one thing I can say is you took too long, but I can say I'm really, really happy about it. It's one of those things where I've spent nearly 200 keys to try and get one shoulder. People have seen me do it on live streams as well, whereas someone else can just use one. And the balance between the two was really, really difficult, obviously, to match. And this is a good answer for it.
The more dungeons we release.
Yeah, I think this is a good resolve for it. The multi-craft then, which we've already gone over briefly, is absolutely amazing. It's about time, and it's something that is really, really helpful, not just for PC users who had add-ons in the first place, but also across the board for console as well. So it may change the market in-game also, because instead of people doing a stack of 200 potions and falling asleep because they can't do any more, they'll just do stacks and stacks and stacks and start selling them, rather than flowers being across the board stupidly expensive.
Exactly.
It's going to be really, really cool.
I will be happy if flowers reduce in cost.
Oh, definitely. Well, the thing is, people will be emptying their inventories.
You kind of need it for writs, but still, yeah.
It's kind of a thing where potions, they're not a necessity, but they are a really big part of your builds, whether it's a healer, tank, DPS, whatever.
Yes, I meant like flowers for writs.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But in that respect, obviously, because they're so popular because of the potions, they're also very expensive, and that makes your writs expensive as well. So it counter off each other, which is annoying. But yeah, hopefully with this being so much faster to do, there'll be a much more wider range of materials and items, or crafted items, including potions, to be available, that maybe the prices will go down. That's my hope anyway, economy wise. But yeah, it's really, really cool. I'm really excited for the update. Crafting and new dungeons, really, really solid. Fantastic. And you've got a dragon in the dungeon. Thank God for that.
Yeah. Two. We got
two. And these have got skin. Last one didn't have skin. That didn't count. It was cool as hell. I'm not gonna lie. Okie dokie. Well, thank you very much, people.
Thank you.
I shall speak to you all very soon.
Take care, man.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.